if you got retrenched, it's different from getting fired. Right? And I think that point is very, very pertinent. If you're getting retrenched, it's a bigger picture thing and you just caught in the crossfire. It's collateral damage. If you're getting fired, it's you. Right? And in most cases, they will tell you, do you want to resign or not? Right? Most companies will do that.
To Wise and Shine. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And I'm Dawn, SG Budget Babe. Today, we have two guests on set and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, Rakesh. You know me from other things from TFC. And yeah, can't wait to get this episode excited.
Hi everyone, I'm Adrian. I'm a fractional CMO by day. I also co-host Fractional is a sexy word for part-time. So I chose fractional. So I also co-host the Work It by CNA podcast as well.
Fractional. So are you a fractional dad or something? So I'm part-time. So I feel like handling my kids, I handle. I feel like I thought, right, I'm a fractional dad.
I do that on demand.
On demand.
Subscription fee.
Not annoying. Fractional. You see,
annual discount.
Oh my goodness. All the marketing speak. Okay. Today we're gonna spend some time to talk a little bit about retrenchment, right? Maybe after retrenchment, then everybody is a fractional. There's no more full time, only can do part time.
Fractionally unemployed.
Yes.
So, fun employed. Oh my god, that's annoying. But anyway.
So the inspiration behind today's episode is because we've been seeing a lot more posts and content coming up. People saying that they've been retrenched or there are retrenchments going on. Even in the investment scene, we're hearing about this on all the different earnings calls, right? Companies saying they've cut like 20-30% of their workforce, and inevitably these are real people, livelihoods that are being affected, that are being cut to zero because no more income.
Thanks for
what we're gonna dive into is what should you do when you sense that coming, then how, shame or not? And
thanks
all the
for
different
covering my
aspects.
cartoon because I made too much jokes in front.
Completely got off track.
Today is a serious topic, right? Retrenchment is affecting people's lives, okay? So yes, how to deal, right? Retrenchment don't need define, right? It's very clear, right?
Just
Let go by company.
redundant.
Regardless, being made redundant regardless of performance.
Although you don't know whether when they say retrench and make redundant, whether real or not. Sometimes, right?
In what sense?
Like, for instance, when they say they retrench their sales force and it's regardless of performance, right? Sometimes it's not that your role is not redundant. They just don't have money to pay you already.
They want to try word of mouth.
There's one. I also heard of companies that will use that opportunity to basically get rid of the people that they never liked to begin with.
Correct.
Exactly. So you don't know for sure whether it's really retrenchment or it's just like a cover up. That's one. But we've seen so much of this happening, and I think actually to me it isn't that shocking because I lived through that era where I saw my parents, my mom specifically, get retrenched because that was during the Asian financial crisis. Same thing. A lot of companies were shutting jobs and factories, so it was a norm. If you go and say, I got retrenched, no shame, because a lot of other people also got retrenched. It's like normal, right? And then we went into like the next few decades whereby retrenchment suddenly becomes shame already. Nobody gets retrenched. You retrench me, you're not good at your job more. You're not valued enough, right? So the concept, the perception that people have towards this kind of change because it was no longer as common. And now we're back into that, up and down like economic cycles. Now we're back to the down, the recession, or some say not really recession, but got different sectorial recessions.
Like fractional debt.
Fractional
CMO. Right, there were also some new names.
So we're seeing these happen in some sectors, specifically tech, and I think some sectors of finance. I don't know what else. Where else is being cut? Quite a bit lah.
Tough club more.
That one different. That one whole thing. That one lucky no petition. It's
media. Didn't National Geographic just cut a whole bunch of its writers as well?
Vice pulled out, right? I think was it Vice pulled out?
Yes.
It's just a lot of stuff lah.
And of course the old spell of like F&B suddenly now being replaced by machines, so a lot of retrenchments going on. So I think we're now starting to see that with so many people admitting or saying, I got retrenched, it's now not as embarrassing anymore. But for a person who is actually going through this for the first time, how to deal.
How to deal, come guys. I'm not saying you have a lot of, maybe you have a bit more, seen a bit more of these cycles lah. So how to deal?
My first retrenchment, I kena when I was 22 years old.
Oh, you got retrenched when you were 22?
retrenched before.
Asian financial crisis.
No lah. I'm not so old.
Vietnam War.
Pre-independence.
My mom is different.
when the British was still
Asian crisis.
No, that happened during the dot-com bubble.
.com.
So
Okay,
around
okay.
2001, I joined a .com and obviously crash burn. 75% got fired. I was one of 75%. Stupidly, I go and join another .com. Kena again.
Another round of fire.
No. Then I joined, I mentioned in the previous episode, I joined this aviation company. I thought, okay lah, no more .com nonsense. Then SARS came along. My friend was telling me, oh, you're damn slow, you know.
Everywhere you go,
Quick question. You got retrenched, got money one, right?
No.
I was going to say like that. You can make $1 million just getting retrenched every year.
So even up till now in Singapore context, the legislation does not cover. There's recommendation, but it's not mandatory.
Yes.
Yeah, which is why when you look at, especially for HR that does regional or global mandate, right? You will see that, Korea, die must pay out 6 months. Japan must how many months? This one, need to go court, need to talk to lawyer. Singapore, just go. Yeah,
We should lobby for change.
Yeah. So what do you think? Is it an issue?
I definitely think it's an issue because it doesn't really give people a lot of time to think through. And I think it also make the decision making so much easier for company, right?
Yeah.
Because
just fire this bunch of people.
Just fire lor. Just garden leave lor until end of the month only ma.
No cost of firing.
Yeah, whereas in other country, I need to debate lah, I need to mediate lah. It's a lot more work lah. So they will really think through, which also means that they will also think through when they were hiring people. They will not anyhow hire. Because you anyhow hire, it's very hard to fire. Yeah. So, but I'm digressing here. But back to my personal experience, I think I was too young to internalize. Yeah. In fact, I found it, everyone got fired, I also got fired. So fun, like so stupid idiot like that. And I think it's also due to the fact I wasn't obligated financially to pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. So okay, I just move on. No.
Who knew you got 4 kids later? Well, now cannot anyhow, right?
So
fractional there.
So, but I did outplacement. I think around 2017. So basically, we help the agency I was with. We help unemployed Singaporean go back to the workforce, and a lot of people got above 30 years old, got laid off, got fired for whatever reason, trying to go back to the job market. And when you get laid off at a mid-career, it's very different lah. Yeah, your liabilities or some of the my kids still PSLE, those kind of stuff. So you can understand how painful it is. And I often put myself in that shoe. What if today something happened to me? I also do not know what to do. Because you never really plan for all this, right? You will always plan for, okay, here I want to retire. You always plan in the best possible scenario. You wouldn't plan for suddenly I gonna cancer, suddenly I gonna fire and all that kind of stuff. So when all this news come, it can be quite traumatic. And there's people close to me who are actually doing such retrenchment exercise right now. And when I hear stories of how emotional people can be, some people may feel that they are targeted. Even if that is not the case. And I think to be fair to them, it is something that you just have to let them go through it because it's very common, right? You will deny first, then you'll be angry.
So it's a grieving process.
Yeah, it's a grieving
steps,
process. Right? Yeah, it's a grieving process that everyone just have to go through. And everyone will go through in a very different manner, especially when you think, I've always been performing well. Why me? Why not him? He also always go for smoke break one. Why me? I'm not even a smoker. So, small little things like that, people will start to nitpick. Yeah, and it's just something that unfortunately things are quite beyond your control. It's like tough club, right? What can you do, right? There's nothing you can do. Management buyout, man. So you just have to move on with life. But I think it is important to go through that grieving process and importantly seek external support, which I don't really see a lot in very older folks. Like what you said, a lot of older generation, they tend to be a bit more face conscious. So even when we're talking to them, right, we say, hey, you just put on LinkedIn hashtag looking for a job. No, I cannot let people know. No, very paiseh one. And because of that, it just makes their life harder and harder to try to get back to the market.
Because actually from a hirer standpoint, right, actually this is the best time to scoop up talent, right? Right, from my standpoint, is a lot of people leave, a lot of people get retrenched, and when you have this kind of mass retrenchment exercise, it's actually the best time to go and like, hey, this person actually damn good. Under normal circumstances, right, they will not leave, right? But now when this happened, then as a mass retrenchment exercise, not everybody is because they chalak, that's why they're let go. The company just cannot afford to keep them around, right? Then that means there are a lot of people out there that they're damn good that you can bring in a shorter period of time, right? So that is that, right? Just letting all of you know, if for some reason you're retrenched, actually there are also opportunists around that are looking to hire, right? Like I'm looking to get good people, right? So it is what it is. But yeah,
I think a lot of people try to also like cover up, right? There is still this element of shame. I think it helps that younger folks who are being retrenched are being open about it, and the more people open up, the more they see others also, then the element of shame and embarrassment becomes less. But to some people, they may still feel really embarrassed. So when is it okay for them to cover up versus just openly admit that?
So we're not interested in the part where they essentially try to get back into the workforce. We only want to tackle the part of
we will
like,
talk about
shame.
that. We'll talk about that. But like in dealing with it straight away, before you get back in the workforce or in your quest of trying to get the next job, when should you cover up and lie? Just say like, I resign, I quit, and then hope that the company doesn't do a background check, then they realize that you lied to them. Or when do you like be completely open? Because some people are comfortable with being completely open. Yeah, I was let go and made redundant in my previous role. Some others are like, would that make me look like I was not a good performer? Then maybe the HR will look at me differently. I should say I resign. Different, right? Resign is I own self choose to. Where do we draw the line?
But ultimately, if they do reference check, you pitch lubang. So it's the same thing. I feel 100% that covering up will help you in no possible way. And I do know one of my former colleague in the first .com that I joined. This uncle was after laid off because he's of quite an age, so I think it was very hard for him to get back to the job market. And randomly, he would just be like walking around CBD, just trying to, I guess, in a way, find things to do, find meaning in his life, and it's just not helpful. I've also heard of stories of people not telling their families, and they will just dress up.
That's the worst.
I will go to work. I will go to work.
Yeah.
When you have to lie to not just your family, but to yourself. I think that's the worst. And I do get that the shame aspect, because coming from that generation, you do put some perspective onto it that, very paiseh, I'm the only one, my friend never kena, I feel so bad, I feel so guilty. But I think as long as people can digest that retrenchment is really not about you, it's the whole market. There's just no more market. People don't like racehorse anymore. It's not your fault. It's not your fault, even though you can be the best jockey in Singapore. So are
there even jockeys in Singapore?
I don't know. I think God.
I went and watched it. They all look damn small, because that is the idea of a jockey, right? They, in order to be more optimized, they're all very small size, and they all don't look Singaporeans. Maybe got one or two. I don't know. I've not really seen it. They all look like.
I mean, there's the Polo Club and all of that, right?
Okay. Fair. Yeah, I think don't take it personal. It's an element, right?
But it's valid, right? I mean, some people, you can't stop people from thinking that it might cloud the HR or the job interviewer's perception of them. Not everyone may be like what you said. It's the opportunity to grab these talents.
So I think during the earlier days when retrenchment was still a new thing, yes, that is really what people would think, especially for the hiring managers, the recruiter. Wow, the person kena, must be not good and kena lah. Let's not even consider that person.
Is it?
Yes, it's legit one. During the earlier years when I was doing recruitment, all these are very blatant one. All the stereotype, the bias, everything very on the table one. They will even write it down for you. Yeah, I don't want people like that. And you just have to follow, no? But when those hiring manager own self also kena, then they realize, actually, I shouldn't have done that. Actually, it's not a company fault. And it will just slowly build that understanding within the market more and more that actually it's nobody's fault. It's the market's fault. It's the industry's fault. In fact, I dare say in many instances, it's the senior management fault. Because as senior management, you are paid millions of dollars to not just do well in good time, but also do okay in bad time. Good time, you take bonus. Bad time, you just fire. Wow, like that also can. I also want to be senior management.
I also want. Got queue. got queue. Can I sign up?
Do you guys think that the market needs to relearn this again? I mean, we had a bull market, we had economic growth non-stop, no recession for quite a few years. So this might have been forgotten, but it's now coming back into the scene with all these waves of retrenchment. Could it be that market needs to relearn this lesson again?
I think in the tech space especially, it's very normal. This retrenchment is got retrenched. Because of the way that they have had to be agile. It's what the companies say, right? The corporate speak. We've had to be agile. We've had to restructure. We're looking at new ways of doing things, which is where they can fire and not take a pay cut, right? The C-suites. So that's usually what they will say. So in that mind or in that industry, it's actually very normal. And when you go for interviews, and I was interviewing a few people, they were saying, "Yep, I got retrenched." Right. And I was at this company and I was like, okay, my first question is, okay, sure. Tell me your attainment or your KPIs or what have you been doing in your last 6 months of the job? So that's when you really try and see whether this person's a good fit or not. Right. And I think coming back to your point, right, don't fake it. If you got retrenched, it's different from getting fired. Right. And I think that point is very, very pertinent. If you're getting retrenched, it's a bigger picture thing and you just caught in the crossfire. It's collateral damage. If you're getting fired, it's you. Right? And in most cases, they will tell you, do you want to resign or not? Right? Most companies will do that. At least, I mean, you have
Wait, is there a difference just for color's sake? Like, you resign and I fire you. How does it look different?
It looks better for the job seeker, for the candidate, for the employee. Because usually if you're being fired, it means something bad has actually really happened.
And it will be written on somewhere?
It would usually company will give a letter that your service has been terminated. And of course, again, going back to the reference check, everything will be exposed. So you do have to align your story. Because the last thing, the key red flag for many recruiters is, you say one thing, my reference check say another thing. Confirm no go on, they'll just move on.
I think also we need to highlight that not every company does a background check on the people they hire. So there are cases where it doesn't get caught up.
You try enough times, then you will slip through.
Which is why we had those cases, right? There was this guy who managed to be a FC at Gain City, fake his
fake resume.
Yes.
He's not the only one, right? There's so many of them.
Many of them.
Yeah.
Like we say, you whack 10 times.
You just need
to win one time only.
Yes. Fair. So that if someone is already retrenched, right? So I think the emotional element, you can listen to the other podcasts. We've talked a lot about those things. But
embracing your emotions.
Yeah, it's challenging, right? But I just want to double down on the point of if you have to lie to your home, then your home also problematic, right? So you at least you must have some space that you can just grieve through and kind of be yourself, right?
I mean, I agree. That could be a view, but the other one is you don't want to give your home more problems. There could be an angle of I don't want to give my home more problems. Let me try and figure it out myself, accept it myself first, and then there could be an element.
I understand. Where that point come from, but I totally don't think that is a valid point in terms of the logical reasoning behind it, because I understand people think like that. Yeah. There's a big bunch of people that think like that. But let's be clear, right? If there's a problem at hand, highly unlikely you're going to be able to solve it on your own. You need external contribution to come in to then kind of go through this together.
I A/B tested that before because beyond being retrenched, I was fired twice. So for the first time, same thing the shame part crept into me. So don't tell my wife, don't tell my friend. I just own self-settle. I'm a man. I can manage it through.
Yeah, the man thing.
Wow, damn teruk.
Teruk is a generational word. I very long never hear. This is what teruk means.
And it was a very tough patch to grunt through because I was just doing it on my own. Versus the second time, kena first thing happened, I go and text my wife, I text two of my friends. And then the moral support came in. And even though I still feel equally shitty about it, but I think that moral support really helped and helped me to look at things firstly in a different perspective. Of course, they'll say all the nice things, it's not you it's the company.
Which must say one, you tell me I also will say one, right? It's a formula, I will say the same thing. Yes,
even though it's a default script, but it makes you feel better.
Yes.
It does make me feel better.
Default script not necessarily bad. I'll take it. Yes.
And that helped me to, I guess, go through that process much faster and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I think the opening up is quite important. And honestly, if family is not there to go through with you during bad times, right? I don't really know.
I don't know why we're here together. Right. So, and of course, I'm not saying you can just free-form throw bad things at home every time, right? I mean, you mess up a lot of shit, right? If that's the case. But yeah, if shit happens, I will want to talk to my spouse, right? And be like, actually, this is what happened. And then everybody can make accurate adjustments. Maybe no more restaurant for a few months. We direct a bit. Some things we change up, can make some adjustments, and I think that gives you as an individual that even you get retrenched, it gives you an easier playing field at home because everybody is clear what is going on, right? And I don't feel like you should hide it. I mean,
I think that's very important because once everyone know, then you wouldn't be like, hey, it's our weekly restaurant run again.
No,
then you still have to,
Don't have to
overdraft.
hide and fake.
Can we change to picnic? What's so bad about it, right? Picnics are great, right? So green space got value one, not free one. Okay. But I feel like there's that element, right?
Yeah.
So
you get more support and you don't have to hide as much.
Like I don't want you to hide because if to put it bluntly, if I'm your spouse, I'm your partner, and I can sense it, then don't try to hide. Like it makes it worse. Right. So I feel like that is the one place that, like don't perform so much. Right. Especially during hard times.
Coming down to that, right? It's that communication angle again that you're coming to. And that needs to be there in the good times and in the bad. I know we're slightly digressing, but this is so helpful.
It's true.
Because it needs to be there in the good times and in the bad. Because then it becomes second nature for you to text, right? Your spouse and your friends and everything else. Because you've done that. Right? Hey, I got promoted. Hey, I got this. Hey, I got that. Oh, hey, I got fired.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that needs to be there in order for you to have that sort of healthy relationship, if you want to call it that at home.
I agree. But maybe not so, hey, I got fired. No, that one like a bit your family have to make adjustments. Can you at least be a bit more serious? Hey guys, I got fired. It's like, hey, don't. Okay, but we already accept, okay, this is what's happened. Many people are retrenched. After that, what do you do? Like, what are the plans? How will you go about doing it?
Personally, so I started a company, right? I co-founded a company after I left the Big Four, and then it failed, right? And you get past all of this. We talked about it, face and stuff like this. But there were two elements for me, and my friends who just got retrenched this year also felt the same thing because I started to speak to some of them. It was two angles. One is the financial aspect, which we've talked about. The other one is the emotional side of things, right? And how do you segregate and how do you then move on? Because the emotional side, both impact each other, right? So how do we know the financial aspect is, okay, let's talk to the wife, let's look at, cutting down this, that, etc. But at the same time, how much do we have till I have? How much time do I have till I need to get the next job? And what must that job pay at? And that's that angle. Then there's the emotional aspect of, saving face. There's the emotional aspect of, oh my God, I just got retrenched. What do I tell the interviewees? How is my demeanor going to be when I go for interviews? And stuff like that. And I think just trying to segregate that and trying to take each problem one step at a time is of utmost importance when you get retrenched.
Smaller problems.
Yes, one thing at a time.
Yeah. But financially, what are your takes on finances? Because I feel like when there's a big I did not say when there's a big retrenchment exercise going on, at least in Singapore, when there's a big retrenchment exercise, as much as we don't have unemployment insurance, we don't have all these infrastructures at play for redundancy payout and all that, it is quite a repeated observation that the government will throw out all sorts of random jobs. Right, they will throw out a budget to then hire people for all sorts of things, right? Like recently the tech layoff. Then I think IMDA came out and said we're hiring, which is great. I think that's great. Like because you're not going to sit there and wait for people to wait for jobs to come, right? Somebody must spend to then hire, right? So you see all these programs like mid-career transition,
like workforce something.
Some of those things, right? What is your take on that, right? Because I am for the position that you should just take whatever that it is and just run. Right, yeah, because the market is empty. You don't pray. Hope is not a plan. Right? You sit down there, ain't no shit's gonna happen. Hope make you feel good lah, which is important in that sense. You hope, you pray, great, okay, but it's not a plan. Right? So whatever the government is throwing out, it is a structural reality. Just take it and go. Do whatever you need to do, right? And then after that, you can kind of adjust and come back. I mean, that's my take.
So I have an example actually. So during COVID, obviously the airports closed down, right?
Yeah.
And I was going to pick up my mask at a community center, right? Government giving out masks. Those guys that ran those at the, I think it's the CN community center, were actually from Donata or actually from Emirates. And they got obviously retrenched because Emirates don't need them here in Singapore. And they just picked up whatever they could find going to the government, so on and so forth, right? And the government gave them, I think, a contract. So at any point in time, if they have a job, they can just leave. So I thought that was the ability for the government to do that was very agile. Very, very interesting. I just throw that example.
And it's not a one-off. Okay, the Singapore government has established this as a system. And over again. Right, it happens. Yep. It's just sometimes I feel like for a lot of people, one thing is the face. It's like from like corporate manager to like social distancing officer. Like
some
something
people
like
cannot
that. Yeah, you cannot accept. Right? So there's that face element to it, and other is like.
But that one government cannot help.
Yeah, that one a bit.
I mean, as long as it pays the bills or part of the bills, right? It helps you in your cash flow.
Yeah. So I think that's the practical elements coming in, right? But of course, the other part is also like, I don't like Cheng Hu, blah, blah, blah. There's also that crew, right? Israel, right? So there's that crew. Then, but I feel like in good times, you want to be a bit selective of whether you work with the government. That's okay, go for it, right? But in bad times, to put it bluntly, they will probably be the only ones that are hiring massively. Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your chief financial coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yeah, now back to the show.
I think if we reframe the mindset also, right? Sometimes being retrenched can be an opportunity.
Yeah.
In a sense whereby, maybe you've never really given much thought to your career. You've just been sailing along. And then all of a sudden something happens, like COVID, right? Disrupts the airline industry. And it's a good chance for you to reflect and think, do I really still want to be an air stewardess or pilot, for instance? Is that what I want to make of my life?
Yeah, it's like I'm wearing green color already. It's a blue, then green, then purple,
So you can take the chance to think, and if the answer is yes, because I do know of friends where they went through that and they were like, I still want to be, but I know that nothing's going to come in these few years, so I'll go and do something else. So I've seen air stewardesses, friends and pilots where they went to take on other jobs, and SIA allowed them, Silk Air allowed them, right? So they did all these social distancing and more, a lot of all the different variations. And then as travel started coming back recently, they went back. Whereas I've also seen those whereby they decided, you know what, I don't want this. I want something a bit more resilient. I've enjoyed my days there, but I think it's time for me to move into a new industry. And they take that chance to go and learn a new skill or move into somewhere else. And I think for many of us, right, especially those of us who are going like probably in our 30s or 40s, where we are so inundated with so many responsibilities at our workplace and our children, our family, our elderly parents, we don't really have a lot of time to really upgrade ourselves. So being retrenched, provided financial circumstances are not that dire, right, could actually give the person the time to go and learn something and change their skill set, break into a new industry. And the best part is the government has actually made that almost free. Right? Most people would have either $500 or $1,000 in their skills future by now, which expires soon, by the way, not a sponsored ad, but you should go and take your free money while it lasts.
It should be a sponsored ad, right? It should be. Yeah.
We'll come to you.
Yeah, I use up all, right? I use up my entire skills future to learn 2 different skill sets. And my perspective was I used my first $500 to learn something and use that to go into an industry whereby it could be my backup. And then I used my next $500 to go into another industry where the barriers of entry is also a bit lower. And with just that cost alone, I can enter already. So I use that to build up multiple backup plans for if something ever happens.
It's very you.
Yeah, very me, right?
Which is great, right? It's not a bad thing. Right.
But imagine I can say this because I'm not in a position where I am retrenched, right? But for someone, they can also use this as in the same element, use that free money from the government to go and learn a skill and enter another industry whereby don't go for those where you need a lot of skills. Then a bit not not being very practical, right? But you can go for those that are a bit on the easier side, who are more open at this stage of time. For example, AI is very new. Maybe there'll be new AI jobs, and then you just go for like 1 or 2 AI courses, use that, go in, and just figure out on the way.
I think the issue is a lot of people, it just doesn't come naturally to them to just learn new skills while they're gainfully employed. Based on most of the unemployed people that I've seen so far, they will only panic when shit hits the fan. Then they'll think about, what course do I take? My industry sunsetting, where should I spend all the money? And it happens so many times that many of them just, in order to put food on the table, they will go and become Grab driver, they will go and become security guard, etc. Which, because of those massive hours, it impedes even their ability to attend interview, to attend job interview. And for some of them, they're like, actually, I was a technician, I make like 2,000 plus, I do Grab, become 4K. Do I want to go back, become technician? Then forever just stuck there.
Grab, right?
So I think it's important that people really look into that to really just learn something learn to learn the worst case is you actually picked up something along the way.
And again, it's coming back to, don't just wait for this time to do it, right? It should be constant.
Correct.
Right? This thinking of learning a new skill should be in your job, to have that ever-learning mindset. I think they call it the growth mindset, whatever that means nowadays.
I just did a long pause around how I think that's stupid. But anyway, we'll talk about
we need to get Eric back for that growth mindset.
It's a very big thing in the tech space also. This one I think
insightful.
And I think another thing that people could really start looking at is how to position. I don't really like the word but it is what it is, personal branding there's this lady, I think she's also quite well known in the tech sales space, Geraldine Pia. She's a content creator as well. She was recently laid off. But within a month, she got something ready. And I think it is very much enabled because of her network, because of her reach, because of her content. My past 2 jobs before I went independent, right, or fractional, the first one came from my content because I was writing a lot about HR tech stuff, and that caught the attention of my one of my employer.
Yeah, you used to run a blog, right?
Yeah. And then my last job came about because I did the podcast and I invited my ex-boss on as a guest. Yeah. And conversation happened, and then the rest is history. So those are things. It's a very long-winded way of trying to, if you have an objective, to meet an objective. But I think it's all building that relationship bank account. So when shit happens, you can just tap on it, you can withdraw.
Yeah.
Fair. Because I think recently, internally, we're trying to do some stuff, right? Like, trying to do some content, try to be a bit different and all that, right? Then I realized some of the guys really struggle with like doing new things, in a sense that, you're not familiar with this format, okay? But I need you to do this format because the market is shifting there, right? Can you learn on the go? Right? Or do you know enough people to ask them, hey, actually, how y'all do it? Can you share me your system? Right? And all these are built upon an ongoing relationship within the industry itself. Right? And I think, like what you say, is a big part. I rarely see industry people at industry events. Right? It's problematic, right? Like the event every day, you don't need to meet all of them. You go there one time, everybody is there. Why you don't go? I said, cannot, I'm very busy. It's like, busy, other busy, right? It's like, what you busy with, right? Like, please
are you
go.
saying me? Just like, me go event, I say no.
You don't need people come to you, right? That's a different thing. But I feel like, it is a thing when you realize that these kind of connections can get you through not just good times, but also bad times. And when you are trying to try something different and somebody has already done it, it gets you there. Right? Hey, you interview a person, can you give me contact now? Immediately I get the contact. Right? Hey, I saw you post this thing. How y'all do it? What's your thought process? Immediately come back, like that, change this, blah, 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 blah. Immediately I know there's a ballpark to play with. Right? Whereas if you work silo, and do it on your own, then...
And in today's context, it's so easy to ask for help, right? 10 years, maybe 15 years ago, there's no LinkedIn. You get retrenched, you're like, who can I ask for advice? And when I was still doing career coaching, one of the things that I always tell my client is, you go to LinkedIn, you find someone who have been there, done that. Ideally, someone who is just like a persona, kena fired or move from this sector to another sector, and then go approach this person and say, "Yeah, I need help. I want to ask your career advice." Psychologically, they will say yes one because they see you as the younger version of them. When they were struggling, nobody helped me, so they want to help you because in a way they're trying to help the younger version. And those conversations will not just open up opportunity, but you also give you a deeper sense of whether this industry, whether it's new or not, this company, whether it's new or not, is something suitable for you.
Yeah. I think adding on to that personal branding point, right? You don't always have to be like, you know, a podcaster, content creator, or a public figure to build all that relationships and connections. It can even be as simple as, you know, like being open and publishing on your own Facebook or Instagram profile that you've been retrenched. And just putting it out there. I recently saw, like, there's just been so many retrenchments, right? And I saw this lady, she's a mom. I think she got either fired or let go by her music company. So she actually posted like a resume. You know, she wrote this long post of her qualifications, what she can do. Then she said, I'm good with blah, blah, blah. So it was literally just a point form resume posted on Facebook. And so many, saying that she's looking for work, so many people responded. Yeah, so I think when people own it and instead of letting that shame get to them, then they hide, right? Sometimes, you know, you can be the best worker in the world, but if people don't know that you are open and available, they also hesitate to come and offer you the job. Later, they may fear rejection or something else. But when you openly say it and you own it, then you never know. You might unlock some opportunities. Maybe your old primary school friend has a job and just nice, you know, you seem to fit the bill and they could recommend you in. But if you never make that known, then you won't occupy that head space. Yeah. So I think that's also something that people can try to be more open about. Don't have to, you know, just stay and marinate in your shame. No use. Yeah, just move on. There's nothing shameful in being retrenched. Fair.
Yeah. Okay, so in closing, give me another career advice, right? Especially the one in good times. Right, because a lot of people, the whole thing is about bad times, right? Like chala, right? So like you do all this when you chala, but then when things are better, when you're on the rise, what would you advise someone to do to further pursue their career? Maybe Adrian can start.
I think have to keep learning new things, and trying to keep that network going on, not just within the company but outside of your company. I think
outside a company is so important.
It is
so important.
Yeah. I mean, in the old days, you talk to competition. It's a very
thing. But now must.
Imagine if your boss see you and the competition sitting at the kopitiam, die. That's it. Go back, warning letter already. But in today's context, it's very different. Yeah, warning because letter. They may think that, hey, why are you with them?
Yes, are you telling them our secrets?
Yeah.
Yeah, you must be like, I'm from Twitter. I want to go at Meta.
They are telling me their secrets. But not in like, this is the form, this is how it's done, SOP, whole thing. When we talk, we chat, right? Like, say, oh, how do you all do this? And then they will share a bit, you share a bit. This it's all part of it, right?
Yeah, right? It's all part of it. Yeah. So building that connections on a regular basis is important. It's like remembering to brush your teeth, right? You do every day. So every day, just reach out to one person. Don't have to, every day reach out to 100. Don't kill yourself. But reach out to one is good enough. Right? If you do it every single day, 1 year you hit up 365 already. That's a good number, and things will just compound from there. And I think if you really want to go above and beyond, you can try to become the thought leader in your space lah. Yeah, but that means a bit more work. You need to write article lah. You need to maybe do content, other form of content, podcasts, etc. And maybe even stand on the stage to speak. Yeah, but those kind of value really will be at a different level.
Yes.
Yeah, it is like, imagine if you and your competition go and meet your client, and then everyone give name card, but you give a book. You give a book. Oh, I'm an author of analytics. Oh, people will see you very differently. So that could also be a case for introvert who don't like to be in front of camera. That's something to look at. I do admit it's a bit of work lah. But ultimately, if you want to stand out, those are the things that you have to do, because low hanging fruit, everyone want to grab.
And everybody grab already.
Yeah, no more already.
Yeah. Okay, fair.
Well, he took my networking thing.
He took everything. Everything
you just said, he just summarized. But I think the part where in good times and in bad, I think you should be vulnerable, whether it be you have a job or you don't have a job, right? And the more that we do that, the more other people might see you as who you are and genuine. So when you do reach out in terms of bad, it's, oh, I get to help this guy. Right. And they'll be delighted because we have something in us that we always want to help other people. At least most people are. Maybe not everyone. But and I think that's so important because we live in a world where even if you look at LinkedIn, you will see more often than not, people who get promoted or people who have done something well. You don't really see total bad news. Right? With the exception of the current tech. I don't know if you all received it, but I received a ton of it. The tech retrenchment and stuff like this. Yeah. But you only see good news. If you're okay with sharing bad news as well, I feel that will create that network a lot closer to you. When you need them, you can ask them.
Yeah. For me, I'm very kiasi. So
she got 10 plans.
My
she
advice
pursuing
is to
plan
have
A,
many
she got 10 plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H.
Each plan got one backup.
Exactly. The plan got sub plan got backup. Right?
In all fairness, I working as tech sales, but I'm trying to do podcasts also. So A, plan B, plan B.
Yeah, but I guess that's because of my background. I've been trained. I lived through a rainy day, so I've been trained since young that I need to always save up for a rainy day, and that is done. You only can save up for a rainy day in good times.
Exactly.
And I think that's what most people miss because in good times they are busy spending, enjoying because I earn it, and they forget that actually you need to save because the bad times inevitably at some point will come. But it's what you do in the good times that will then determine how well or how fast you recover for the bad times.
Yes.
So practical tips, if you guys haven't used a skills future, honestly there's $1,000 that can pay for 2 courses or like 1 expensive course. You can build 2 backup plans like I did. Or you can build 1.
What's your backup plan?
I won't say the second one because I'm trying to keep that a little secret. But my first one is not a secret. So my first skills future $500 was spent on property. Right, I went for the property course, and then it was a backup, right? So I was not incentivized to go and take the license. Then after that, my husband challenged me. He said, "I passed first time. You can or not?" A lot of people fail. So I was like, I refuse to lose, Because I'm like, how can the straight A scholar lose to the non-straight A person,
Right.
He knows how to trigger me the right way. So that got me going. Then I passed the exam. Then after that, then he said, "Hey, you got the exam qualification ready within 2 years. If you don't go and park under agency, you must retake." I'm like, go through another, this all over again. My lah. So I went to go and get my license. So that's my backup plan. Yeah, so he recruited me that way. I told you, he knows how to trigger the right buttons. Yeah, so that's my first backup. But I mean, property is just one. And I think it's getting a bit harder. The exam really is very hard.
It is much harder.
Even in my cohort, I think there were only 2 of us who passed. So it was quite scary.
They should make it harder.
It's quite hard. I think my group chat was like 30 plus people. Only 2 of us passed. Can you imagine? Wow. So yeah, but aside from property, there's so many others. I see things like you said rightfully, cybersecurity. There are things like AI. AI is so new that there are jobs existing in that market that have not been created. Same as when e-commerce was starting out. I remember there were new jobs and my friends landed some of these new jobs and then we were like, what job is that? I never heard before. So there were like merchant sales. For instance, talking to merchants to get them to join Shopee, Lazada or that. Hey, no such job last time one. Yeah, so you can actually go into the new industry and start to learn as the job is evolving. And a lot of these courses are available for people to just take for free. Government pay what you don't want to take.
I recently come across a job, live streaming coach. Coach people how to live stream. Also have
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I should start live streaming.
Yes.
So go and
No, you start how
create
to
your
be a
backup plan.
podcaster.
I'll teach you.
Maybe I create a course, how to create
how to create a podcast.
Yeah, then go and apply for skills future
and
funding.
I got enough track record to tell you how it works.
How to make $1 million doing a podcast, and then the cost of the program is $1 million.
Okay. Maybe I will share with you a thing. If let's say you want to do a podcast, right? I feel like a lot of people when they start a podcast, they expect to be like the pros, right? And it's just not real, right? So it's not realistic. You must understand star power and all that shit, right? So maybe you should start with just as cha-cha as you can, right? With whatever you have, you just start and you kind of roll from there. Improve your skills and all that. So podcasting is quite a journey, and if you really want to, just go.
And you must talk for 10 people as you would for 100 and 1,000. Right? Because the 1,000, the 100,000 don't come until you first talk to that first 10.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's what many people miss.
Casting,
because in this age of instant fame, they're like, I want to talk and I have thousands of views. No, it doesn't always work out that way.
Try to go narrow, right? Don't go broad topic. Who are you to talk about relationship? Just because you got relationship? Siao. Right?
Hey, later you attract that comment in the comment section. Who are you to talk about retrenchment? You got retrenched?
Never, that's why I chose expert.
You got to niche down. I thought about relationship for 25-year-old who stay in Tampines. Block 200.
Okay. Okay, can. Because your strategy is the kopitiam next door, right? But really, you must be niche. Don't touch social topics. You don't have the capability, neither do you have the credentials to talk about it at that level. Right? So try to go into a more technical topic, niche down. I think those things are underexplored. Everybody wants to talk relation. Everybody wants to talk about like society. I was like, who are you, brother? Right? So please, Okay. So that's it.
So in closing,
before I get cancelled. Please close.
Something we haven't thought about, signs of retrenchment.
Oh, what about that?
How do you know whether retrenchment is looming in your office? So some of the things that I've heard and I've seen and observed, of course, suddenly a lot more management meeting. Suddenly, you usually have a cadence, right? Once a week, big meeting room, but suddenly it's like 3 times a week. Yeah. And then you see a lot of people having their own one-to-one meeting that usually are not that regular. And sometimes meetings you are being omitted of, which you should be part of. And of course, all the external news, market news, this company buying over our company and all that kind of stuff. And of course, looking at the larger picture, maybe people know that winter is coming. Obviously, your company will kena lah. You think your company sell drugs, man?
Sure. I think following the earnings calls for if you are working for a listed company can also be a big sign.
I think especially American company because they're so sensitive to the quarterly earnings.
Correct. They tend to announce their plan beforehand. For next quarter we are going to focus on cost effectiveness. Then coming already.
Yeah, it's true. Like I listened about a year ago. I think while I was in France,
they started talking about that about 1 year ago already, right?
Like Facebook, Google, they're all saying, I time to trim,
new.
all that, right? So they've said it, right? But not every company have that kind of internal comms, or like external internal comms.
But then my question, so if you can spot those signs, what advice would you give for the person in the company? Should you then, it's better to resign than to be retrenched, right? So should you then after throw the letter because you get cut the X?
I feel you should already start talking to headhunters, sounding people out, because when things happen, when the X drop, right, you are competing with everyone else within your company. So you should want to take the first step out first, ma.
So you should resign first.
Not resign first, but at least
you
keep
should
the
talk to headhunters first, right?
So keep the conversation going and maybe try to buy time, lor.
So I think especially in the tech world, you want to be retrenched. You don't want to resign because you get money. Right?
Expectation.
If you look at Google, if you look at Facebook, when they retrench people, they give X number of months.
Some companies
right?
But like what we said earlier on, some others don't. So
correct.
how? Then should you, if there's no payout,
so again, I would do the same thing. If there are signs, immediately I would tap on the market, go and speak to whoever recruiter I can find and say, look, I'm looking to move. What are your thoughts? Where are there open spaces? Can I go in and interview? And then at that point in time, you go through those interviews. And if you get the job, then you can decide, okay, should I resign and then move on? Can I delay them a little bit? Let's see how we're doing.
Would there be merit in changing the title such that instead of you waiting for the X to fall, you throw your letter first? So then when they ask why did you leave your ex company, what you say is I resign, which seems to have perceptively there's more power and control versus I was retrenched.
That is under the assumption that you have resigned before interviewing for the job, right?
Yeah, because before you got another offer.
Yeah, but if you're interviewing for the job while you still have your job, you don't need to say anything.
You don't need to say anything.
That's what we're trying to say, right? So early signs is you go out, you go and speak to the recruiter and you say, I'm interviewing for you. They won't say why you're leaving. They could say why you're leaving a job, but you can say, actually, I just want to join your company.
Right.
The good thing about going through an external agency or headhunter, right, is they will always present to the other side that, actually don't want to leave, but the headhunter called me. So you hang up the cell lah. It's a very different perspective already. And to another sign I just thought of, right, we've seen recently some people put on TikTok live in a day as a Google engineer on TikTok, and then whole day 做bo one. Just drink coffee, have fun, sleep and all that. I think that is a sign lah. People are going to bust your ass lah. And people are going to bust many more asses lah.
It's happening.
Exactly. So, and the more videos there are like that, it also goes to show the organization that maybe we hire a bit too many 做bo people. That's why we need to cut. And that's what happened in Facebook, right? I think there was this viral TikTok video whereby the recruiter say she was being paid like 5K or more a month doing nothing. There was no one to hire.
Wow.
And then shortly after that, a few months later, we see the news, Facebook X, 20-30% of his workforce? Not really surprising.
So must diam. You enjoying,
got
don't
nothing
go
to
and
do,
tell the
don't
world
go
like
and
another
tell.
nerve.
Yeah. You think your boss never see, but people will share.
You think rich people not on social
you
media?
You see your employee post this and all.
You can see
the Chinese saying, right? Big tree catch a lot of wind.
Yeah. 大树招风. Okay.
Okay, so in closing, I guess like we've touched on the shame involved with retrenchment, how that should not be a thing. Own it, and by putting yourself out there, by telling people, you can actually use it to create an opportunity for yourself to move into a better company, a better industry, or even do something completely new that you never otherwise would have explored if you had not been retrenched. Yeah. So any last thoughts in closing?
And you got any other things to add? I think we share a lot already.
Yeah, we have. I think most importantly, please reach out, right? When these sort of things, forget the face, saving face and stuff. Reach out. The faster you do that, the faster you can get past the 4 stages of grief. Move on.
In Singapore context, if you're Singaporean PR, you get free career coaches to support you from WSG, E2I, Injust, Maximus. I think there's more coming in. Whether effective or not, I think that's beyond the point. But at least you have people support you lah. There are people behind you. 加油, good job. Try harder. I think that
that's
in
not very
itself
helpful the image. 加油, that one you trying to sell but tak matching.
Sounds almost like a sponsored plug until you all do that.
In case your skills future sponsorship never come in.
Anyway, the IBF, Institute of Banking and Finance, right? IBF has a program that is trying to help me career switchers switch over to become a relationship manager. Right, so you can work with them. The program is quite good, right? Because you must first interview with the banks, right? So I think there are 9 banks. You first interview the banks, want you first. If the banks want you, IBF will sponsor the whole training process for I think 6 months or something. So during the 6 months, you still get about 3,000 to 4,000 of pay. Right, about 3, 5, 4, 5 depending lah, right? So I think that is a program that you can explore. If you are an avid listener of the podcast, maybe you also want to explore finance as a career and all that, then maybe you can look at that. Okay, cool. I think we dropped enough already. Okay. All the best. Take care. See you next week. Bye.